All right, so we are live. Welcome everyone to another episode of Flutespresso. This is episode 17, and I'm delighted to be here today with Dr. Terri Sanchez. Terri is the newly appointed professor of flute at Bowling Green State University in Ohio, and was previously the professor of flute at University of Texas at Arlington. She is a Miyazawa performing artist and the author of several books, including the Aspiring Flutist Practice Companion, which we will definitely talk about in just a little bit. So welcome, Terri. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. So if this is your first time at Flutespresso, as you know, it's just a casual coffee chat with some of our favorite flutists. Usually we do a giveaway of one of our Flute Specialist coffee mugs, but today is extra special. We're going to be giving away a copy of The Aspiring Flutist Practice Companion by Terri Sanchez. This is an awesome book. So to be entered, all you have to do is comment, just tell us, what coffee you're drinking or where you're watching from, and then you'll be entered to win randomly. We'll select, I think, at the end of the day, because this is a big giveaway, and I think everyone wants to win this one. If I could type, I definitely would. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about what you've been up to in the last, maybe over the summer.
Oh, yeah. So as you and I were chatting about just a few minutes ago, I just made a pretty epic move. So I grew up in Dallas-Fort Worth area, and except for 4 years up in Colorado, I went to see Boulder for my undergrad. I've always lived in and around DFW in Texas. So this move to Bowling Green, Ohio, I actually live in Perrysburg, like 15 minutes north. It was a big adventure, and I've been getting the hang of just a new place, new people, new vibes. And I was lucky because my master classes and my online courses and camps and things were all online. So it allowed me to move up early and really get ready for this upcoming school year.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the area. We're so happy that you're just down the street, just across the border from us. So you're doing online stuff, online teaching. Are you still able to teach some of your students in Texas at all?
Some of them I'm getting them set up with different teachers so they can have that live lesson experience. But I've actually had a ton of fun lately teaching flute teachers. So I did this online course called Flute Teacher Superhero, and a lot of the teachers have wanted to sign up for flute lessons and pedagogy sessions. And I thought I had fun before teaching flutists. Teaching flute teachers who teach flutists is even more fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Sounds fun. So tell us a little bit about what you're looking forward to this school year with the big change.
Well, again, you and I were just chatting about this. The BGSU Flute Studio has such a rich history, and so many talented, amazing flutists have come from BGSU. So I'm honored and feel very privileged to join the story of this studio. And I've kind of hit the ground running. I've met a lot of the students. We've had 1 or 2 lessons, and every single student that I interact with is so passionate and enthusiastic and ready to practice and grow this year. So the energy and the spirit here is just, it made me feel really good about making this move. Like, I think I'm in the right place.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. And yeah, again, they're so lucky to have you there at Bowling Green
Thank
State.
you.
And we know we work with lots of the students there, and they're just all incredible. So I think it'll be perfect for all parties. Yes.
I think it's going to be a really good year. And I think we're all just so excited to be back in person after not being able to do as many live concerts. And, everybody has done so many online things. Just to have that live flute sound and that sense of community back. I think a lot of us are excited for next week for classes starting.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, definitely. So let's see. I want to talk about your book, as promised. I think it's amazing. I've been going through it, and it's really inspiring. So it's a 3-part book. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe like how you came about writing it, and where some of like the exercises came from, and why everyone should have a copy of this in their studio?
I can ramble about this for quite a while, so cut me off if we've got like a time limit. But so the way it started was, I was working at UT Arlington, and I loved my students. A lot of them didn't really have that focus or that discipline that we absolutely need to have to put in the practice hours and grow as musicians. And I really identified with them because when I graduated high school, I had really succeeded in that small pond environment, and I knew how to win a chair test or, make Texas All-State, but I didn't really know how to practice for real. And when I tried, I would be so perfectionistic and stressed out and kind of overwhelmed. And then I saw my students at UT Arlington having such a similar experience, and I wanted to share with them what I know now, what I knew then, that I didn't know when I was starting college. I wanted there to be this map. What the heck do you do when you go in the practice room? And even more importantly than that, what do you do when you are feeling frustrated or irritated or not good enough, or your flute self-esteem is low? And I just started at the beginning. And if you've kind of skimmed through the 7 chapters, you'll see chapter 1 is super basic. Like, what do you even need to practice? Supplies, environment, sense of timing, time management. But then with each new chapter, I tried to dig a little bit deeper. How do we listen? How do we experiment? How do we make progress when something feels this challenging and we feel like we're starting here? Chapter 5, I'm actually really proud of because it talks about that sort of long haul where you don't have validation. You don't have somebody saying good job or giving you stickers, and you're not getting to have chair tests or, that thumbs up saying, hey, you're doing the right thing. What do you do in that kind of long time period where it's just you and the practice room, your flute, your music? What do you do? I really tried to break it down. And it was a fun process collecting all the ideas. What I would do it took me 3 years to write this thing. I had a poster board up in my office, and I attached a Sharpie to just a piece of twine right by the poster board. And every time we would have like a magic moment in a lesson, an aha moment, I would say, okay, hold that thought. And I would just run over to the poster board, scribble a few notes, and then we'd get right back to it. And that poster board turned into 3 giant poster boards. Those turned into note cards that all turned into the book. So that's where those first 7 chapters came from, is just hopefully a user-friendly guide for how do you grow? How do you practice? How do you develop yourself? Because I think a lot of times, I don't know why, but especially flutists, we're looking for that magic teacher that has all the answers, that's just going to mold us and sculpt us. And a lot of times those kinds of things do happen. But no matter how magical the teacher or how not magical the teacher, it always comes down to you, the flutist, you, the practicer. It's about you and your music. So I hope that a lot of people, if they're feeling frustrated or irritated or lost, can just, thumb through the pages and find something that sparks them in the practice room. Yeah. And then you mentioned the other 2 sections. So chapter 8 is 100 practice games. And really, you can combine any of the practice games, and then a lot of the combinations you can just customize, and you can make up your own practice game. So my intention in assembling all of that was kind of just to prove that everything is figure outable. Everything is something you can handle if you go slow enough, break it down into small enough pieces, get creative enough with your approach. You literally can handle anything that you'd like to practice. So I'm hopeful that chapter 8 kind of it's comforting because you never have to be stuck. Stuck is not a thing.
Mhm.
You know, if you're facing this really challenging passage, there's infinity ways to practice it. You never have to just do it one way. And then the exercises, starting with my Epic Warm Up 2.0, and then like Crazy Cool Chromatics and Major Minor Magic and all of that. It's actually funny how all of that got started. I was supposed to write these scale exercises for a flute fire book. Flute fire is a camp I've taught at forever. And I was not familiar with notation software. I mean, I had 3 degrees in flute, but I wasn't proficient at Finale or Sibelius. I just hadn't had to use those skills as much. We did a lot of handwritten things back when I took instrumentation and everything. And I procrastinated so much on this assignment to do these scale exercises, also because I was kind of bored. I didn't really feel like writing a basic exercise. So I ended up handing off that assignment to somebody else. But then that following summer, I thought, okay, I don't want to feel limited by this. I mean, I like to grow. I don't want to leave a fundamental gap in my knowledge of, how to navigate these tools. So I decided to teach myself Finale. And the very first thing I wanted to write, I knew I wanted to write a warm-up that was very fun, that packed in every single thing that a flutist might need to sound good in a short period of time. And I was inspired by, do you know Helen Blackburn?
Mhm.
I was inspired by Helen Blackburn's warm-up packet because she had so many great things like harmonics and gut puffs and double tonguing and all this. And so I took all of the just wonderful nuggets of skills and studies in that packet, and I created melodies and kind of a plot line. So the Epic Warm-Up starts in the low register and helps you dig in and find that core, find that consistency, and then everything kind of builds organically from the low register up so that you're bringing the depth to the high register, you're bringing that perpetual motion, momentum, and flow to the double tonguing and the vibrato. And I was really pleased with learning Finale and then how that warm-up turned out. And then after that, I was addicted, absolutely addicted. Every time I had like 10 minutes to myself, I was like, ooh, I want to write another exercise. Or every time a student had a challenge, I was like, I'll write an exercise for you. So yeah, so I think you can see why the book ended up so thick. There's just a lot in there.
There's a lot in here. It's awesome. I actually went through some of your warm-ups and they're really fun. I think I've heard you on a talk before saying like you literally can't go on autopilot because you're like something's always changing.
Yes.
So it's not that predictable, which is exciting, I think, in a warm-up. Like we usually in warm-ups we understand it and then it switches keys and then we just do the same intervals. So it's cool. And you do include everything in there, harmonics and the gut punches, as you called them, singing and playing. I think it's really, really cool. So,
oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, that was another thing I really struggled with as a young undergrad. I mean, of course, Taffanel and Gobert is like our, bread and butter in terms of flute discipline and growth. And Moise, long tones, I mean, all these classics. Of course, they're like the most important thing, and that hasn't changed in my mind. But when I was a freshman in college, I did not have the attention span nor the emotional intelligence to play long tones even for 10 minutes and listen to my sound and explore nuances and colors. And I mean, I just was not in a good headspace, not good enough to do that and really be effective. So I've kind of switched my thinking from, okay, Taffanel, Gobert, Moise, those are where you start. I actually think you need to graduate to those. I think those are advanced. And so my book is kind of a way to introduce consistency and discipline and focus. But like you said, it's fun. The melodies are kind of sing-alongable. You can't go on autopilot. And then if somebody went through all the exercises in my book, I might say, okay, now you're ready for Taffanel Gobert.
Right. Yeah, it is great to have that kind of those options, right? To stick with like the standards of Taffanel, Gobert, Moise, and then also like I'm going to change it up a bit. So I think that's
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Variety makes such a difference.
Yeah. Yes. And just a reminder, there's a lot of people commenting. So hi everyone. Thanks for watching.
Hello.
So, it looks like you're going to St. Louis in
Yes.
the spring. How exciting.
Mhm.
Cool. Just a reminder for everyone who is just now tuning in, leave a comment in the chat and we are going to be giving away one of Terri Sanchez's books, The Aspiring Flutist Practice Companion. I don't know why I feel like that's like a lot to say. Just like all of your warm-ups have these really like cute titles. I'm like tongue twisted.
All the alliteration. Yeah.
I know. So cool.
I see Liz in the chat. Hi, Liz from Miyazawa.
Yeah.
Nice to see her. Heather says she loves Helen Blackburn's warm-ups. Me too. I love that packet of her warm-ups.
So we mentioned you're a Miyazawa performing artist. Can you talk to us a little bit about your flute or what that process was like?
Oh yeah. I should definitely have gotten my flute out. So, I mentioned this a little bit in my book in a couple of places, but I had some pretty terrible habits when I started my undergrad degree in flute performance. And a lot of it, I think flutists can identify with because I had a lot of stress and kind of personal drama going on in my my life, my family history, and flute for me was a saving grace. But unfortunately, I would squeeze it way too hard and I'd press it into my face. And it was like I was trying to kind of give myself therapy by just micromanaging and being aggressive with my flute. And unfortunately, that ended up in flare-ups of carpal tunnel syndrome, tendinitis. I mean, I had jaw problems, back problems, and there are all kinds of things that I've done to do a huge makeover in the way that I play my flute. But I would have to say what really made it possible was the purchase of my Miyazawa Rose Silver flute, the Miyazawa Classic here. It's such a light touch. And it has such clarity and depth without me feeling like I need to be aggressive, that it allowed me to reprogram my hand position, reprogram, how much pressure I was using with my fingers. It's funny. I pretend like my flute's made out of marshmallows now. Like I have such a light touch. Every once in a while I have to go, you know what? I really should press just a tiny bit harder in that one place. But without my Miyazawa flute, I wouldn't have been able to just completely do a 180 in the way I hold the instrument. So that allowed me to get back into playing after kind of a forced break from injuries. Yeah.
That's amazing to hear.
Yeah.
We're huge Miyazawa fans, Miyazawa dealers at Flute Specialist. So I was excited to see that. Oh, nice. She also plays on a Miyazawa. Yeah. Yes. So back to your teaching. Can you tell us a little about your teaching philosophy or what you look for in potential students?
Yeah. So there's this quote by the poet Rilke. Our fears are like dragons guarding our greatest treasures. And I have found that to be true 100% of the time with flutists, that their greatest fear or their greatest weakness, their Achilles heel, so to speak, the thing that they feel like they suck at, that's actually their hidden superpower. And so a lot of my teaching, when I first started teaching, I thought, oh, here are these flutists and they are like empty vessels and I need to fill them up with flute knowledge, And now I feel like it's exactly the opposite. What I do is I unblock because there's so much good information that everybody's collecting all the time, especially now with all the online resources. We've got master classes, YouTube, all these conventions and festivals, and just ways of constantly soaking in amazing information from the world's greatest flutists, from all the flutists doing really cool things online. And, everybody's got their history with all their different teachers and band directors and everybody that's ever given them advice. But the problem is with all that advice, a lot of times flutists have what I call busy brain. They are so filled with shoulds and shouldn'ts and gotta do this and I shouldn't do this, and that really gets in the way of listening, connecting, the kind of simplicity that it takes to just breathe in comfortably and blow a steady stream of air out. A lot of times with my teaching, it's all about unblocking. So I'm going to go to that weakness, that Achilles heel, that thing that's just not working, but I go straight to it knowing that that's actually the flutist superpower in disguise. And then the ripple effects are incredible. Because when you unblock a superpower, everything starts rising up. So that's I've had so much fun kind of falling down the rabbit hole of this teaching philosophy, and I have yet to have a teaching experience where this has not been proven true. It just keeps being true over and over and over again. So I'm pretty set in my ways with this philosophy.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That's so unique. I love to hear that.
I'm
Is
glad.
there like a certain superpower that you see in a lot of, or is it like different? Is it mostly different?
I could tell you a couple of the trends. If a flutist is really struggling with rhythm, like has trouble counting, has trouble figuring out rhythms, or really struggles to feel a sense of inner pulse and just is discombobulated by rhythmic complexity, I actually know secretly they are a rhythm rock star. And so what I have to tap into is that kind of, I call it kindergarten brain or caveman brain, that just kind of basic connection to pulse and rhythmic proportion that we all do have. We just have to practice tapping into it. And so I really enjoy kind of healing or helping my students to heal their relationship with the metronome. You know, a lot of times students use it as an instrument of torture, or, you know, almost like a taskmaster, or they're so uncomfortable that they are actually pretty adept at tuning it out. So by healing that relationship and making it feel more like the beat of your favorite music in your car when you're driving, and really tapping into the fact that the beat's coming from inside of you and you're just dance partners with the metronome, you can unblock that rhythm rock star superpower. Another one that's a pretty common trend is tone. I won't mention her name, but there's one student that always comes to mind as the primary example of this. I had a student years ago, and when she would play for me in our first few lessons, her tone wasn't just a little off. It was aggressively unpleasant to listen to. I mean, it was somehow very, very weak, but also too intense because she was overblowing but not getting very much air into the instrument. The tuning was all wonky. It was painful for her too, because she actually had excellent ears, because tone was her blocked superpower. And so little by little, untangling the busy brain, little by little, relaxing her body and allowing that natural tone to come through, she ended up playing some beautiful solos as principal of the orchestra where she was by the time she graduated. So it was so exciting, because to hear a flutist play with all these colors and all this singing expression, and then to think back to where she started, it's just the perfect example of how our weaknesses are actually our superpowers in disguise.
Aw, that's so great. How awesome. How awesome, the big transformation.
Yeah.
Cool. It looks like you have some students that will be studying with you in the fall or next week, whenever classes start, here in the chat.
Oh, nice. I don't see them. Oh, Savannah. Hi,
Yeah.
Savannah.
Aw.
I'm excited to work with you too.
So before this, when we were just chatting, before we went live, you said you at some point juggled like 75 or 80 private students? Like, can you just talk a little bit about that? Like, that's so many students. How do you have time for other things? How do you remember everyone? A lot.
That was too many. It was too many. But after my undergrad, I moved back to Texas, and within a matter of weeks, I had about 35 students. And then, like I said, I topped out at about 75 or 80. A lot of them were half-hour lessons, like at their schools, but some of them were hour lessons. So I didn't really have a life. I didn't have, self-care time or, breaks or anything. I had these just very strategic lunch breaks, and I would always go to the library and like check out audiobooks, and that ended up being very inspirational for me over time. But I just would fully surrender to wake up, drive, teach all day long, be super exhausted, go to sleep, rinse, repeat. And even though it was too much, I learned so much. I really would not trade those kind of 3 intense years of having that many students. I wouldn't trade it for anything, because when you teach that many flute players all across the age spectrum, the level spectrum, you learn about how people's brains work, about how flutists' brains work. And, that was the beginning of me understanding that, wow, our weaknesses really are our superpowers in disguise. And I was able to see how it always comes back to simplicity. It really always comes back to simplicity, because, we can write articles and collect 100 really awesome flute tips from 15 different amazing flutists, and we can assemble all this information, but when it comes time to just play the solo at the beginning of Afternoon of a Faun, or to get up and be the star of our own flute recital, it's not about 100,000 different pieces of information coming together. It's about breathe, sing, listen, connect, feel. And so we have to appreciate the information, but then when it comes time to perform, be really, really open to let the music flow through us. So I began learning those things by teaching that many people, because it didn't matter if it was a beginner 5th or 6th grader, an advanced high schooler, a college student, an adult student. I've taught many students in their 60s and 70s. I've taught them all. Didn't matter who it was. It always came down to the simplicity of breathe, listen, sing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, wouldn't trade it. It was too much, but I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I like that. Breathe, listen, sing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was showing you my office earlier. I've been kind of doctoring it up here, but you can see that's on top of my blackboard there. Breathe, listen, sing. Yeah.
Oh, great. Little reminders everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so now that you might have a little more free time, like what do you do, I guess, when you're not teaching or playing flute or writing in finale?
You're so funny. Might have a little more free time.
Maybe,
No.
I don't know. Maybe.
No. I think I'm going to be busier this year than I've been ever, but in the best possible way, because I'm so excited to work with the students in the BGSU Flute Studio. I have some awesome concerts and trips planned. There's so many cool things here. There's a new music festival here. And I do have books in the works. Like I told you, there's not like a publication date set, but it's all just a matter of kind of. I do what I call productive procrastination. So let's say I've got 25 emails that are just calling out to me, and I don't quite have the energy yet. I'm going to sit down for 10 minutes and do a little work on one of the books, do a little work on one of the pieces or exercises, and then get back to the emails. So it's just a matter of when that productive procrastination all adds up to new stuff.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so I think at that, do you have any advice for someone who, I mean, you didn't go straight through your degrees, you taught, like you said, for 3 years. Any advice for people who don't go straight through and how to keep motivated?
Yeah. I mean, as much as I keep saying, the 75, 80 students was too much, and it is. I do think teaching is one of the best ways to stay motivated, because every time you teach your student, you're also in a lesson. You're in a lesson about how the flute works, about how to connect more with music, about how teaching works. And it provides that kind of structure. There's just sort of a mentality when you're helping your students to practice for deadlines, practice to improve on this project or that project. It keeps that in your mind, keeps you moving forward with your own growth as well. And then also, if you are deadline oriented, to create deadlines, to enter competitions, to schedule a recital, to create projects, maybe some chamber music work, create projects so that it's not just this vague idea of, oh, I need to be practicing. Oh, I need to get better. No, like specific pieces, specific concerts. Get some stuff where you can roll your sleeves up and really dive in.
Yeah, great. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Sure.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. I'm excited to hopefully be able to finally meet you in person now that you're so close.
Yeah.
I feel like you have so much exploring to do because you're close to a lot of like different cities, I guess. Like you're not far from Chicago, Detroit. Yeah.
I've been up to Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor is really cool.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, I love it up there. Okay, so we usually end these with just a quick round of this or that questions. Some flute/music related, some just not. So I already know you like coffee, so I'm not going to ask coffee or tea, but here we go.
Coffee.
Espresso or drip coffee?
Espresso.
Okay. Alto flute or bass flute?
To listen to bass, to play alto.
Cool. Okay. Hot climate or cold climate?
Well, I would have said hot, but I just moved to Ohio.
I know. I was thinking that. So I was going to say Texas or Ohio, but I'm
going to learn to embrace it. I've been getting lots of advice about like boots and coats and
oh my gosh,
tires and things. So I'll be learning this winter.
And you can always escape for like winter breaks. Go back and enjoy the heat. Prokofiev or Poulenc?
Oh, that's a brutal choice because they're so amazing. But Prokofiev, because my favorite piece on the planet is Classical Symphony. But then also Lieutenant KJ and Romeo and Juliet. It's got to be Prokofiev.
Yeah. Great. Dogs or cats?
Yeah. I know so many people love their animals, and I always do too because they're cute and wonderful. Yeah. But I just have never been an animal person myself. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, that's okay. We'll forgive you. Small chamber ensemble or orchestral ensemble?
They both have amazing experiences just waiting to be had. But orchestra is incredible. It just really is. Playing Mahler symphonies or Rite of Spring or something like those are lifetime experiences.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay. Books or movies?
See, I just think in life we don't have to have or, it's and. I love books.
Then we can't play the game.
And movies. I'm sorry.
No?
Okay. If I had to pick, I love reading. Please understand, I love reading. But if I have to pick, I'll pick movies because I just love having the full immersion experience of the visual and the auditory.
Yeah, I am movies all day. Well, you did you listen to audiobooks, right? Isn't that what you're saying?
Tons. Yeah. Tons.
So you are kind of in the and, Okay, Ravel or Debussy?
These are hard.
They're evil, I know.
They're evil questions.
I know. You can say both.
I would say,
tell us a piece of each that you love. Your favorite.
Debussy Afternoon of a Faun for sure. But man, Ravel, just the epic quality of Ravel, I guess.
Okay. Morning or night?
Morning.
Okay. And then finally, Telemann Fantasies or Bach Partita?
Bach Partita, which I just surprised myself by saying, but yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Awesome. I loved all your answers and your openness to the cold climate too, especially.
I'm ready for an adventure.
Okay.
Just I need more tips if anybody's got tips.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I don't even have a proper coat yet. I need to get on that.
Oh yeah. And it's coming up. It's coming up. Summer's almost over already.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again.
So fun.
Yeah. And again, for anyone watching, at the end of today, I will pick a winner just out of all the comments in the chat. So everyone comment, because this is definitely a book you have to have. I have just really enjoyed going through it, and thank you for your contribution. And it is available now at Flute Specialists as well. Yes.
Nice. Right. Well, you'll have to let me know who wins the drawing.
I will. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Sure. Bye.